Hello, everyone. Mabuhay and happy Independence Day to everyone. Wow. It's been a very, very long day for me. So, just to give you an idea, I have been up at 7 a.m. I had a talk there in Manila at 7 p.m. last night. And I have been speaking nonstop until 5 p.m. today. So, I had a little break in the afternoon, but I rested a little bit because I wanted to give you guys my full energy. It's 11 p.m. here. I'm actually in Pennsylvania right now on summer vacation, but I'm still working at the same time. I guess that's one of the benefits of this pandemic, right? You can actually work anywhere you want. So thank you very much, Telia, for that amazing introduction. I'm so honored. I hope I can do justice to how you introduced me. Okay, so that's it. Let's get the ball rolling. Okay, so we because we have a lot of things to cover today. Okay, so let me just pull up my slides right now. Okay, so for today, I was asked to talk about business innovation in a post-COVID world. And this COVID pandemic, it's really crazy. It really caused a major worldwide upheaval. And one of the things I do a lot here is I do a lot of training. And part of the training that I do is I do trainings on creativity and business innovation. I've been in advertising for 17 years. So, creativity is such an important part of what I want to do. And a lot of companies here in the United States and there in the Philippines, they're consulting me on where to bring their business. And there's one thing that I discovered right now, that we are actually living in times of what I call business unusual. We're living in truly unusual times. And regardless of whether you're MECQ, GCQ, lockdown, like how we are right now, COVID has disrupted businesses in a totally unprecedented way. If I had $1 for every time I heard the word unprecedented, I'd be a multimillionaire right now. And really, this idea of how COVID has disrupted our businesses, it's something that has troubled so many people. Whether you're a big scale entrepreneur who takes care of thousands and thousands of employees, or you're a starting entrepreneur, this entire COVID situation has totally disrupted things. And currently, the outlook of the world is this: 77% of companies, they're considering serious cost reductions. 17% of global CFOs have expressed fear. So it's kind of like a scary time. And here's a sobering truth for all of us. The truth is this: that businesses will continue, but not all businesses will. So we have a choice. Whatever type of business we have, whether we're big entrepreneurs, whether we are freelancers, we have a choice. This COVID pandemic is giving us a choice. Our choice is either to evolve or to be extinct. We're looking at evolution or extinction. So if we want to transform our businesses, part of this entire talk is going to be just about that. And I wanted to give you a couple of areas where you can take a look into your business so that you can be armed on the best way to transform it. Now, what's the first part that we're going to look into? We're going to take a look into, which for me, one of the most important things we have to understand, the consumer. Remember, regardless of our business, each and every one of us is we have a purpose to serve a particular type of consumer. So even during this pandemic, the consumer is still where the battle starts. Our understanding of how the consumer will evolve is actually the first step of the battle. Let's face it, consumers right now have changed in the way that they behave. They've changed from the time prior to the pandemic to right now to after the pandemic. There will be certain things that will change. And they did a study of what was going to be the consumer what will be the consumer's post-COVID behavior. So the source is EY, the EY Future Consumer Index made the study. So 27.3% of consumers will say they're going to cut their expenses. They're really going to do a major deep cut of their expenses. 26.2% will stay calm and carry on. They're going to continue spending the way that they used to spend. 35.1% will save and stockpile, meaning they're going to hoard their money. They're going to stockpile like it's the end of the world. And 11.4% of them will just hibernate, meaning they're just going to take a step back and see how things are going. So all of these things represent changes in our lives as entrepreneurs because the people spending behavior has a direct impact on our business. And I've discovered in my research and studying about consumers right now, in today's world, there are actually three key consumer shifting trends. So the three are the shift from the individual to societal, purposeful consumption versus impulse consumption, and increased spending in coping consumption. Now let's go through each and every one of them quickly, okay? So let's go to the first one, the shift from individual to societal. This pandemic has actually opened the consumer's eyes to a greater awareness of how our spending choices affect society as a whole. It's kind of funny because prior to the pandemic, we were living actually in a highly individualistic world. People were just looking out for themselves. I'm going to do it. I'm going to pursue my dreams. I don't really care about what's happening around me. But the pandemic kind of opened our eyes that we're all in this together. We've got to help one another. So we are now shifting from a highly individualistic society to a society that actually cares for one another, a society that's based on solidarity. And this behavior also affects the brands that consumers support, which means gone are the days that consumers are going to support brands that don't take care of the environment, brands that don't take care of their people. So what does this mean for us as companies? This means that we have got to demonstrate to the consumer how our company is looking out for other people. It cannot just be about the profit. It must always be how our company is designed to serve society as a whole. Now, that's the first major shift. The second shift I've observed is there is a shift from purposeful consumption versus there's a shift to purposeful consumption from impulse consumption. This pandemic has opened our eyes to the fact that we cannot just spend money wantonly. Scarcity and financial insecurity will actually veer the consumer away from wanton spending. Right now, we are seeing that a more purposeful consumer is emerging. And this sense of purpose is actually reorganizing their needs. Before, it would be so easy to spend stuff on anything. But right now, consumers are now very, very cautious about their spending behavior. And I'm going to share with you something because I've also been affected by this. I'm a speaker, right? So I'm a speaker. Since I moved here to the United States in December 2018, I've given talks here in 71 cities and 25 states. So I've really been around. I've been traveling. It's like every week I'm in the airport. And whenever I travel, I like eating out. Since I'm in a new city, I'm going to look for a nice, expensive restaurant. I'm going to eat out. And then I'm going to enjoy Starbucks. I'm going to go to Starbucks and just buy coffee there because for me, my mindset was that, you know what? I'm tired. I just want my the thing that I'm enjoying right now. And then March came. March was supposed to be my fullest month. It's like I had a gig every day in March. There was not a single day where I did not have a gig. Then the pandemic struck. All of a sudden, all those gigs gone. So immediately after March, my first reaction was I had to curtail my spending. I don't eat out too much, stop going to Starbucks. And a lot of our consumers are behaving in that same way as well. People are now more purposeful. Before I buy something, what is the purpose this purchase is going to make in my life, as opposed to it just being impulsive? Because people are not sure about what their financial situation is going to be after the pandemic. Many people have already lost their jobs. So as business people, we've got to keep this in mind. However, people are still spending as well because we've also noticed there was an increase in what's known as coping spending. So consumers are allocating budget towards spending that helps them cope with their current situation. So these are the areas that they're spending on: home fitness, educational content, at-home dining, recreation entertainment, personal self-care, retail therapy, which means these are potential areas for us as entrepreneurs that we can look into that can help us out. For example, if you have a restaurant maybe part of the important pivot in the post-COVID world is to really push for at-home dining. Maybe if you're a person who sells let's say um toiletries, maybe part of it will be to come up with a series of relaxing relaxing lotions to remove the stress from this pandemic. So these are the things that are happening to our consumer. And in fact, right now, there are five major changes that we are seeing in consumers. And we've got to identify and look at these changes. The very first change that affects our business is what's known as the circumstantial change. So circumstantial changes are there changes in the circumstances of our consumers that could affect how they deal with their business? Let's face it, many people have either lost their jobs, reduced their hours. So a lot of consumers, we have to take into consideration these changes in their circumstances. Is it possible for us to lower our cost, for example, so that we can lower the price that we give them? Because we know that many people will be struggling after the pandemic. There are many changes that will happen in their day-to-day lives. The second thing that will change will be priority changes. Are there changes in their hierarchy of needs? And if you look at our product or service, let's say we're selling a particular product, let's say we're a restaurant, right? In the pyramid of needs of the consumer, will the restaurant go up or down? Because we've got to adjust to that. Like for me, one of my passions is really eating out. My friends know this. So I really find great pleasure in looking for a nice restaurant and eating out in a restaurant. But since this pandemic started, the restaurants went down in my spending pyramid. What went up were groceries. What went up were groceries and safety stuff like face masks, because those are now my new priorities. Hand sanitizer, that's a new priority for me. So we need to anticipate what are the changes in the priority of our consumers. We've also got to look into the mindset changes. Are there changes in the mindset of our consumer that has an impact on our business and their spending? If before the consumer considered your product or service as fundamental and important, what has changed? How is the consumer's mindset with regards to money? How has that changed? Are people now going to be holding on to their money closely? Are people going to be more open to installment because they don't want to give out a big chunk of cash? As a business owner, we've got to look into this so that we can create changes around that. Next, behavioral changes. Has the consumer's behavior changed pre to post COVID? And maybe 90% of the time, the answer to this question is yes. I've looked at a variety of consumers. People's behavior have changed. Right now, people are not too comfortable to go out in crowds. That little thing has a big impact on how businesses are going to be run. Restaurants now have to think about not cramming people together. Okay, one of the things that I'm still part of an ad agency there in the Philippines. So I'm the creative director of this ad agency called Niche Play, right? We're an event agency. We did the SEA Games opening ceremony, right? But right now there are no events because consumers don't want to gather. So we need to think of how can we pivot our business to reflect this behavioral change in our consumers. Next, problem changes. Has the consumer's problem changed? And how are we posed to help solve this problem? Before, the only problem of a consumer, if they got hungry, was to choose the restaurant that they wanted to eat in. Now, the problem of the consumer has actually shifted. People are now looking into how can I bring the restaurant home? I'll share with you this very, very nice story. So, in Boston, where I currently live, there's a barbecue place that we love. And the reason why we love going to this barbecue place is they have these 4 special sauces that were on their table, right? So we go to this restaurant because the sauces were mind-blowing. Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said. The sauces were mind-blowing, right? So during the pandemic, we decided to order out from this restaurant, right? And you know what I loved about it? Inside the bag that they gave us, there were 4 tiny bottles of those sauces. So what they did was they knew their consumers were craving for those sauces, they solve the consumer's problem by allowing the consumer to bring these sauces at home. So these are all the changes that are happening right now. What is the secret to a successful company or a successful entrepreneur? Successful companies, freelancers, or entrepreneurs are those that are able to help the consumer transition from one difficult change to another. Let's face it, change is difficult. It's constant, but it's difficult because if it were easy, then so many people would have changed for the better, right? For us as business people, we've got to understand we've got to understand these changes. Why? Because when we do so, it allows us to figure out the best way to help our consumer bring some semblance of normalcy in their lives. Why is the word normal very important right now? Because there are two values in the hierarchy of consumers that have shot up in recent days. And one of these values is actually the value of normalcy. It is the value of helping the consumer function as normally as possible. That's one thing that we as companies should be able to provide the consumer. We have to figure out how we can give the consumer, return to the consumer that sense of normalcy that they had. If we own a co-working space and people are used to co-working in that working space, how can we bring it back to the sense of normalcy as close as possible to how it was before? The barbecue store that I was telling you about, their sense of normalcy was to give you 4 small bottles of their favorite sauce, because that meant that even if I'm eating from my house, I still feel normal. And that's one thing that we have to think of. So you guys, I want you guys to think of all these changes that I talked about. What do you think is the most significant consumer change that is related to your consumer? Why? Because when we understand the changes in our consumer, we can now understand what are the changes that we need to do in our organization, which is the second thing we're going to be talking about. Remember, organizational evolution is driven by consumer evolution. How they change will also affect how we service them. Why? What is the service or product that our business gives to our consumer? And when we look at it, our success will be contingent on how we are able to meet the new consumer need and provide this new consumer with a new business offering. Our service goes in the middle of that. And companies, amidst this pandemic, they're probably struggling to identify, okay, what are the changes that we need to implement? And the advice I give companies is I give them 3 stages of changes, okay? So there are going to be 3 organizational evolutionary waves. Think of it like the pandemic wave. So it's going to come in waves, right? The first wave is the most important one. So what is our immediate goal? As a company, your immediate goal is to activate. So in the middle of this pandemic, what are the things that you should do immediately? Activate. What do you mean by activate? You need to secure the safety of your workers and customers. Figure out how can your business operate while keeping them safe. You've got to assess the situation. You've got to establish important immediate responses. After this immediate thing, we need to now the moderate wave is to stabilize now. When you've activated this, now is the time to stabilize. We've got to develop responses and processes for the current challenges we're facing in the current COVID world. Identify what evolutions will you do for your business. And the last part, when we think of long-term, let's now strategize. What will our long-term business plan be in a post-COVID world? What will we change? Because it's so easy to panic, this is a roadmap that you can use. Keep it simple. Activate, stabilize, and then strategize. Now, part of this, what needs to change in our organization? Because the change of our consumer will also trigger evolutions in the things that we're doing. So what are evolutions that will happen in our organization? Maybe it's as simple as a product evolution. Do we need to change anything in our product to address a new consumer need? Is there a new product that we can introduce? So one of the persons I was taking care of in terms of helping them is a company that sells a lot of toiletries, right? They sell perfumes, they sell scents. And who needs scents right now? So the pivot that we did was to actually create alcohol gels or hand sanitizers that were infused with the scents that she already had. So she wasn't in the hand sanitizing business, she was just in the perfume business. But this pandemic forced her to do an evolution in her product. Maybe we're looking at a pricing evolution. Do we need to adjust our pricing to address the new consumer need? Because maybe consumer money is going to be tight. Companies that are able to lower their costs are the ones that are able to take care of their customers in a very effective way, which means maybe that's part of the evolution that we need to take. Next, maybe it's a service evolution. Is there a change in the way that we serve our consumers? Is there a new service we can include to help them? Laundromats, for example, here are now offering no contact laundry, whereas before you had to go into the laundromat, put your laundry in the washing machine, and then wait for it. Now they're offering a no contact laundry service. That's a service evolution that has happened as a result of the COVID pandemic. Why? Because amidst this pandemic, we're going to see the rise of what's known as hero versus villain businesses. And consumer loyalty will be given to hero companies that put their consumers and employees' health above their businesses. So my question for you, are you a hero or a villain company? Because if your company endangers the lives of your employees for the sake of profit, people are going to turn their backs against your company. Remember, people are now more societal than individual. So they will support companies that they perceive to be hero companies, companies that take care of other people. Remember what I talked to you about earlier? One of the most important values that is emerging right now is the value of normalcy. What's the second one? The second one is safety. Businesses thrive when they examine how their business and operations can improve upon the safety of their customers and their employees. At the end of the day, you have a choice. Are you going to be, excuse me, are you going to be a hero or a villain company? You have a choice. So in the face of this, what are opportunities that we can look into? You know, the Chinese say that crisis is the same world as opportunity. And I really believe that. What are opportunities available there for brands right now, or consumers, right, or companies right now? Here's the first opportunity. We are seeing a rise of relational brands. The brands that will survive this post-pandemic world are what we call relational brands. And relational brands have to have the first mover advantage, and it has to be relationships based on mutual understanding. Brands that demonstrate that they understand their consumers' needs and are positioning themselves to help the consumer, even if it is inconvenient for the brand, even if it will make the brand less profitable, these are the ones that consumers are going to follow. And amidst this, what are we called to do? If we're a business owner, if we're a freelancer, are we supposed to cut down on our marketing? No. Now is the time for us to actually go on the marketing offensive. Now is the time for us to ramp up our social and digital channels. You know what's amazing? You guys are watching the Freedom Summit right now. There's going to be a ton of speakers. We're going to talk to you about different social and digital channels. Listen to them, because now is the time to really go on the offensive. Create virtual consultations, for example. Increase your capability to accept clients on the digital sphere. Now is the time for you to highlight new products and services during this pandemic, because people are looking for those. And now is also the time for you to start to hype yourselves up for the reopening. Okay? So, in terms of opportunity, now is also a good time to reconnect to your business, to your stakeholders. And how can you reconnect? What's a basic roadmap? The first one is check up on your consumers. Ask your consumers, the ones that you know, how are you? Send them an email, send them a text message. How are you? How can I help? Because when you check up on them, you're creating opportunities for them to interact with your business. Maybe you're not ready to serve them right now, but you are reminding them of your presence. At the same time, one important thing that we can do as business owners is that we can give back to our community. And I love it. I see my social media feeds. It's filled with so much bad news, let's face it. But I also see a lot of good news. I see a lot of companies, private enterprises that are giving back to the community. And again, this goes back to hero versus villain. Is your company a hero villain, or a hero? Is your company a hero company or a villain company? And the next opportunity that I wanted to share with you is it's important for us to be a part of the consumer circles of trust. Before, consumers were expanding their networks. Right now, as a result of the pandemic, one of the important changes that happened is that people's circles of trust suddenly shrank. We're now looking at smaller circles of trust. So, how do we become part, therefore, of a consumer circle of trust? The first one, send brand content that helps them in a lockdown. Create content for them. Share stuff about will help them process the difficulty that they're going through. Whether it's a simple thing as a guided meditation to help relieve anxiety, or a checklist of what are the things that you need to prepare for your reopening, whatever it is, give them content that will help them. Promote your brand evolution. Now is the time to share how you are changing your brand to protect the consumer. I love it here in the United States. I ordered from one of my favorite restaurants. They delivered it to my house. And the thing that I loved it was there was a little flyer that they attached to the bag that said, "Your safety is our number one concern. We wanted to demonstrate to you what our safety protocol is to make sure that the only thing you're going to bring into your house is delicious food and not an unwanted visitor." And you've also got to be flexible and creative in addressing the needs of our consumers. The best brands who will survive in the middle of this pandemic are brands, companies, entrepreneurs, freelancers who are the most flexible. If you can pivot, if you can flex what you are doing to address the needs of the consumer, you're already ahead. So, as we're reaching the end of our time together, it's important for us to really accept what the new normal is going to be. There are certain things that no choice, we have to accept these things. What are things that we need to learn to accept? Number one, people are going to be more obsessed about safety. And that's not going to go away anytime soon, which means as a business, we have to understand how can we inject safety in our products, in our services. If you are a hairstylist, how can you inject safety so that people will feel more safe? That's going to be one thing. The second one, distancing is going to be the norm. So we've got to figure out how can we manage our business even though people are apart from one another. Maybe it's all about telecollaboration or telebusiness. I'm a partner here in a direct primary care clinic in Boston, Massachusetts, and one of the things that we pivoted to completely is really telemedicine. Our doctors see our patients exclusively through video calls. In fact, we're thinking on investing on new technologies that we can give to our patients so that they can get their readings. We have to adjust and accept this new normal. There's going to be a global slowdown. Let's accept that. So let's just be patient. Things are not going to be as fast as they want it to be. Even Amazon here is no longer as fast. Before, it used to be just one day you'll get it. Right now, they're saying because of the COVID pandemic, we have to slow down. We have to take our time. And lastly, part of the new normal is understanding that consumers will now have circles of trust. And all of this will affect our businesses. We have to learn to accept the new normal so that we can pivot to that. Okay? Now, that said, oops, sorry, something happened. Okay, now that said, let me go back to my share screen. My apologies. Now, that said, I wanted to end with this, the idea of action, right? Opportunity is always at the other side of evolution. So, whatever it is, when we choose to evolve, our opportunities will be found on the other side of that. Brands that choose to not evolve, they're going to get extinct. So in the face of this, there's a triple R that we need to be able to do. Number one, we need to be able to respond, reset, and renew. What do I mean by this? Let's go first to responding. We need to respond to our market's needs and align it to our current business needs. We have to listen to them. We have to understand what they need, and let's fix our business to adjust to that. The other thing that we need to do as a business, we need to reset, redefine our relationships and our role in our consumers' lives. Are we going to continue to be the supplier of products, or are we going to need to shift to becoming a supplier of services? Are we going to be their ally, or are we going to be now their comforter? We've got to see what will our role be in their lives. And the last part is we need to renew. We need to accelerate new investments in our post-COVID business. This is where we talk about the first mover advantage. Okay? And on that note, that ends my talk today. But before I go, I have a special treat for you guys. So, for those of you who are thinking about the opening of your business, it's really a scary time. So, we've created a special talk that we wanted to share with you. Okay. And the name of this talk is called Now Open. And Now Open is a special seminar that we're offering through this particular summit, through the Freedom Summit, to prepare your business to reopen the pandemic. So we have this amazing webinar. I'm doing it with a very good friend of mine. So I'm going to be speaking about your reopening marketing plan, because if you're going to reopen your business, you need to plan for that. You need to plan about your communication. So I'm going to help you out on that. And I'm going to be joined in this particular webinar with a good friend of mine. His name is Paulo Serrano. He's the former Chief Operating Officer of Max. He's going to share with us tips and strategies and processes and policies on how we can reopen safely after the pandemic. It doesn't matter whether you're a food business, a retail business, or a service business. Paulo is going to talk about that. Now, that's going to be on June 24, 2020, on Wednesday, 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. The investment fee is 2,500. But I have good news for you. If you subscribe to this through the Freedom Summit within today, meaning Independence Day, you can have it for only 1,900 pesos. So you're going to get two amazing speakers. It's going to be 3 hours of powerful information, only at 1,900, because we really want to help you guys out. And the last thing that I wanted to share with you before I end today, please follow me on the following social media channels. I'd like to connect with you. Follow me on Instagram at Francis Mir and LinkedIn at Francis Miranda. If you want to reach out to me, you want to pick my brain on something, as long as it's not my nose that you pick and it's just my brain, that's okay. So please follow me on Instagram at Francis Mir and LinkedIn at Francis Miranda. So on behalf of everyone, happy Independence Day. Thank you very much for having you. I don't know if I have time for a few questions, but I'm turning you back to Celia. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you for that awesome talk. So many insights about how we're going to cope up with this new normal, how we can change, and try to navigate to whatever it is that's being given to us with this situation. For everyone who wants to take the offer, this is given to us by Francis. If you're going to get it under Freedom Summit, it will be discounted to the, how much is this, Francis? It's just 1,000, 1,900.
900.
Yeah, so
1,900.
a big discount, 2 speakers, and it will help you kickstart your life again. So thank you, Francis. Really enjoyed having you. At last, we had you as one of our speakers, and what better time, no? Because Francis is very creative. I just want to let you know that I've attended so many of his talks, marketing in a budget, so many things that I learned. I'm doing branding, but still, because of his expertise, I was able to get out of my comfort zone and really connect with more people. So if you want to connect with Francis, let me just put again his ticker. Email him in this email address and check out his website. And again, Francis, thank you for helping us, and happy Philippine Independence Day. Yeah.
Happy Independence Day to you guys.
Okay. Thank you, Francis. Bye-bye.
Bye.